Welcome to the Bowel Chronicles, where we dive deep into the world of bowel health. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and on this podcast we have raw and candid conversations with individuals facing various bowel conditions and illnesses. Through personal stories and shared experiences, we illuminate resilience and courage in the face of adversity. Be reminded that each story is personal and unique. These conversations are not to be taken as medical advice or to replace guidance from a doctor or healthcare provider. Our aim is to inspire and empower through these amazing stories, amplifying voices often unheard. So join us as we embark on this journey together. Sit back, listen, and be inspired. Enjoy the episode. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bowel Chronicles. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and today we are joined by Jodie Ireland here in Belfast. And Jodie, it's so good to have you here with us today to share some of your story. And Jodie, I think we connected at the beginning maybe of May. If I'm correct, I want to say your mum reached out to me on TikTok, and since that, we've kind of been chatting back and forwards and actually met in person, which was truly amazing. And I was very keen to get your story out there, very keen to hear. For people to hear your story, what you've been through, to help educate people on your health and your circumstances and condition, and also to help publicise what you're currently going through, where you're at, and about the help that you presently need. So, Jodie, you're 20 years of age
I
and
am.
you were born with quadriplegic cerebral palsy, and you're a full time wheelchair user. You're registered legally blind, and at the age of 14, you had bowel and bladder failure. Now, I think that's
Mhm.
there's other stuff going on in the background which you can like tell us all about, but if we can maybe just start off to give our audience a little bit of background. You're 20 now, you had this bowel and bladder failure at the age of 14, but there were things going on before that. So if we go back maybe to your childhood, what was life like for you as a young toddler, a young person at school, at home? What was things like for you? Just tell us a little bit about that.
It was very isolating for me, not only because of the issues that I had going on, but public perception of disability just isn't what it is today.
Mhm.
Um, and I wasn't viewed as normal, but I also didn't see any difference in myself. I thought I was just stereotypical child, and then I was hearing all these things like you can't play football because you can't kick a ball because you're in a wheelchair, or I don't want to play with you because you're disabled. Luckily, I have two very strong brothers who fought those battles for me. But on the flip side of what was going on, like indoors behind closed doors, so to speak, I was always struggling with incontinence. Whether that be through my bowel or bladder, it was always both. I always say, if one doesn't behave, nor does the other. Um,
It's very true.
And for years, it was never looked into. At one stage, my mum was actually told it was behavioural, and I was doing it because I was a rebellious child, or I was doing it because there were certain things that I didn't want to have to do, like take medications or do certain activities or wear certain pieces of equipment. Which, looking back now, no mum, it was just ridiculous. But I've been raised by a single mum. It's been her on her own for all of my days. So,
Mhm.
like, there's nothing else that she could have believed, and no one else was giving her any sort of medical background. It was never looked into as a medical problem until I got to the age of 14, and it just completely stopped being able to function.
Okay, so that was both your bladder and your bowel.
Yeah, so I always had trouble with my bladder and bowel, but initially it was my bladder that stopped, and then my bladder just stopped, so my ureter and urethra is actually too tight due to my cerebral palsy, and it doesn't open. So and I always explain my condition as because it's very varied with people with cerebral palsy. So I always explain my condition as if there's loads of like lanes and traffic lights, and the traffic lights are sending the wrong signals and sending the
Yeah.
cars to the wrong places. So um a lot of it is to do with my brain and how my brain sends signals to my body. So in turn that caused failure of both of them. And I don't think people realise this, but with cerebral palsy, because it is so varied, every muscle in your body's affected right down to your internal organs. So no one even thought that on surface level it's maybe she'll not be able to walk, talk, feed herself. That's what we're told. We're handed leaflets and told how to just wait and see to see how your child develops, but no one really looks below that surface level to see what's affected. And for me, that was my bladder and bowel since day one.
Okay, so your mum had realized this as a child and she put it down to maybe it's behavioral problems. So she realized there was incontinence there, she realized there was problem with the bladder and the bowel, but it was really then when you got to the age of 14 where it was recognized that this is something more than behavioral problems. There is actually an issue here. And like you said, with cerebral palsy, it's not just the what you see on the exterior, the muscles that you can't walk, you can't lift or do certain activities, that it is actually internally because the bladder and the bowel, they all have working muscles. So those muscles have became lax, or in your case with the bladder was too tight for urine to pass properly at times. And so they took you into hospital then at the age of 14, is that right?
Yeah, so I had been struggling with urine retention and just moving my bowels in general for my entire life, but it kind of came to a head whenever I was 14, and no one knew. We were all learning together. It's very hard to look below surface level, and even now, you I'd be surprised. More doctors would know what a suprapubic catheter is rather than my ACE procedure, which I have in my bowel. So I still feel like to this day that I'm teaching doctors when I come across. But yeah, I was in and out of hospital for a year because what they thought was, oh, she's just having a bit of bladder retention. We'll put a catheter in, drain it, take it out, and see if she can pay for herself and see if she can pass her for bowels herself if we give her some medication. Um, which worked in the short term, but with bladder retention, you maybe pass anywhere from 15 to 50 mil, and you're still retain. I was retaining, I think, at my highest point in my bladder, I was retaining 1500 mil. So my bladder had
Wow.
stretched um massively, and in turn that also affected my bowel because my bowel stretched as well because I'm not able to pass um I'm not able to pass my bodily fluids myself, so it all just gets bunged up in there.
Hmm. And then they both put pressure on each other, they put pressure on other organs, and you get massive fatigue out of that. And you've got so many things going on in your body. So they took you in and they fitted you with a suprapubic catheter into your bladder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, originally that wasn't the plan. I was supposed to have something called a mitral, which is a keyhole surgery where they put your appendix to your belly button, and you can use disposable catheters to drain your bladder through your belly button effectively with
Wow.
no medical evidence and none of the things that I'm having to carry about on my body now. It was
Yes.
very discreet, and I was like, great, that's wonderful. Not that I care about appearance at all, because whatever gets my body by will get my body by. But originally, it took ages for them to even figure out how to tackle the issue. With both my bladder and my bowel, hence why I was in hospital for a year. And then when it came down to having the actual surgery, it was cancelled about 4 times just due to my anatomy and how everything had changed inside my body. But eventually, when it got come around to having the surgery, um, my mom got a phone call to say, Jodie's appendix is shorter than a 2-year-old's baby's. Now, bear in mind at this stage I was 14, so that's
Yeah.
not great news to hear. So it wasn't long enough to have the mitral off to reach my belly button. So
Yeah.
what they did instead was they inserted suprapubic catheter. I knew I was getting that from day one. Because as soon as I heard that news, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do whatever I need to do to get me by. But with my appendix, they created what's called an ACE procedure. And they put my appendix to my stomach wall as a track for a tube, much similar to the suprapubic catheter.
Mhm.
If people are aware of what that is, it's pretty much the same thing. Feed it into the hole in my stomach, which leads to my bowel through my appendix, and then we can do um irrigation and flushes and empty my bowel that way.
Wow. So just to recap for our audience, you were fitted with the suprapubic catheter into your bladder at this point, and then you also had the ACE procedure. So the suprapubic catheter is a length of catheter, is that right, Jodie? That is attached in there. Is
Mm.
that connected to, is that always connected to something, or is it just at nighttime whenever you go to sleep that you would connect something to that to gather overnight? Or do you get the sensation of I need to have a pee? Do you feel that, or do you just
I
empty?
have many ways of working with it. And it really depends on the day and how my body is reacting and
Okay.
how cooperative my body's going to be that day.
Hmm.
Um, I have an option of using a flip flow valve, which is like a little on and off tap, which I can um used to drain my bladder, and therefore that answers your question. I do get the sensation I need to go to the bathroom when my bladder's full. But I can also wear a day bag, and then during the night I hook that up to a larger version of a day bag that just collects more urine through the night.
Very good, very good. Okay, and then the ACE procedure that you had at the same time, then that is the appendix brought out through the surface of the abdomen, through the stomach, and it creates this little pathway into the bowel. And on the top, then you pop in a little plastic button, as we would call it. It inflates a balloon inside the abdomen, and it just closes that over. So then you would pop the button open, insert a little bit of catheter tube, and then irrigate the bowel, sit on the toilet, and flush out the bowel. Yeah?
Yeah, so what we actually did, because that's like the poster way of looking at it, that's the way that it was presented to me. But what we actually did, because I already had the suprapubic catheter,
Mhm.
and it's inserted through my stomach, and on the other end of it's a balloon, which keeps it in place
Yeah.
inside my stomach. So we ended up just using the same sort of device. It's actually quite common to either have that button or a tube like what was in my bowel. Um,
Okay.
but because they were so similar, we thought same same action, same thing. They all do the same job, and that just stayed in there. And we could change it anywhere from would change my suprapubic catheter every 3 months for risk of infection, but my ACE could go 6 months. Because there's less risk of infection there.
Yes.
So
So on the other side of that, then you got out of hospital. How how did life look for you then? Because you've gone from no tubes to having both catheters. That's a lot. That's a lot at 14 years of age.
I would say for the first wee while, the biggest thing for me was I got my life back. I was free to do whatever I pleased, when and where, whatever I wanted. Obviously, we needed to schedule times for my bowel washouts because they could take any. They started initially from anywhere from 45 minutes and then gradually got worse as it began to feel. But I suppose we'll get into that further down the story. But yeah, I had a bit of body dysmorphia at the start, I think, because what 14-year-old girl again, as I said, now 20, I'm gonna be 21 in August here, so I really don't care about vanity. Like, vanity's the last thing I care about, but waking up with a massive scar down in the middle of your abdomen and two tubes hanging out was I knew what I was going in for, but seeing it actually there was quite a shock. So it took me a while to get used to my new body, and I was constantly thinking, and this is. I look back and laugh because I was like, there's so much more I had to worry about at the time. But what naive 14-year-old girl doesn't think about this? I was like, well, if I'm ever with a partner, like, my body's not going to be it's not gonna look pretty. There's gonna be scars, there's gonna be tubes, it's not the stereotypical body. And I was never a petite girl. I've never been the stereotypical like attractive body type. So, like, looking back at that makes me laugh. But yeah, it was tough.
It's
But the
it's
biggest thing,
genuine.
yeah, it was. It really is, and I don't dismiss that. But the biggest thing that probably foreshadowed all of it for me to go, do you know what? That doesn't matter. Was me get my freedom back, because before the surgery, I had an indwelling catheter up my urethra, and because all of my seating is custom made, molded due to my severity of my cerebral palsy, because I need so much support. It was all custom made to my body, so there was no room for accessories or catheters or so I was more or less bedridden. I couldn't get out of the house for a year. I was in and out of the hospital for a year, and so the biggest thing for me was, I've got my freedom back. Let's go and live life.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those things then. You've got this ACE procedure done, you've got the suprapubic catheter done, and you've got a new lease of life. Yes, mentally you're living with, my body looks a lot different now, and there's no doubt about you were navigating that every day in life. I'm 4 months post stoma myself, and every day I just have a look and go, oh, this is me forever. And you have that moment of, is this going to suck because it's forever, or is this, it's giving me my life back? And it's that stepping into that headspace every day of, oh, this is giving me my life back. Life can be so much better now that I've had these things done. So what did you get up to then, whenever you were able and you'd recovered? Tell us about some of the things that you've been up to.
My biggest milestone, which I will never, ever, ever forget, one of the first things I could do was, I was always academically capable, but I went to a special needs school that didn't offer any sort of steps forward or academic accolades for me to access a workplace or access any future career that I might wanted. So, with being involved with Monkstown Boxing Club as a young woman, they really showed me my potential. But because of my incontinence and toileting issues, I always needed help and I always needed changing, and it was never nice, and it it took away that kind of dignity for me to be able to access mainstream education. So that was one of the first things I did. As about a year post-op, I moved to mainstream education, studied for 4 years in total, got 11 GCSEs, and studied through my A levels. Unfortunately, I had to stop them due to other health issues, more so mental health. But I'm very open and honest about that, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, especially with all what we go through. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I was at uni, but I've had to put everything on hold due to what I'm going through at the minute. But it's just given me so many pathways forward, and that was my golden ticket.
Jodie, honestly, you're an absolute superstar to move from a special needs school into mainstream school to go after your dreams and to complete 11 GCSEs and even try to undergo those A levels. You have done fabulous. And like you said, you've gone on to uni, but it's been put on hold temporarily for now whilst you navigate kind of this season you're in, and I have no doubt about where you will go and what you will achieve through life. You're very young, determined, very driven young girl, and you will definitely succeed. So you're involved with Monkstown Boxing Club. I listened to a bit of your story. It talked about your older brothers being involved in the boxing club, and you thinking, why could I not go there, or could I go there? And you actually went. And well, you've been at Monkstown Boxing Club ever since, and that's a number of years ago. And you're a very big personality in the boxing club, and you do a lot of kids work and kids charity work as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What are some of the things that you love to do? And let's talk about you're an ambassador for children in need as well. Let's hear some of your
Yeah.
stories.
So my opportunities from the boxing club, as I mentioned, mainstream school was one of them. But even silly things like going on a camp out, like I've never been camping, um, doing water sports, never done that before in my life. But I can say now I've been on the back of a water skiing
Wow.
and tubing, and I've been on educational trips. We often have groups go to South Africa to work in orphanages and to really gain a new perspective and let them know what youth work's all about. But for me, that trip was to Poland, and we learned all about the Holocaust, and it just really like widened my drive, and they give me these opportunities, and a lot of it has come my way, as you said. In 2022, I was part of Children in Need Surprise Squad, and it was actually through the boxing club that they saw what I was doing, and they wanted to pick up interest in me because, as well as being an aspiring youth worker at the time,
Mhm.
um I was also the club's inclusion ambassador, so I would speak at public events with councillors, local politicians. I would, really preach the importance of, and I think it speaks volumes coming from someone who's as disabled as me, because I might not sound it when I'm speaking to you
Uh-huh.
here, but I'm in a really unique situation, I think, to be as physically disabled as I am and as vocal as I am.
Yes.
So I'll never take that for granted. But yeah, so I'm their inclusion ambassador, so that goes for kids with disabilities, kids with like kids of any background and no matter where you're from, I will be your biggest advocate.
Mhm.
Um and so that's where my work kind of laid, and then Children in Need in 2022 picked it up through because a lot of my public speaking and stuff would be documented on Monkstown Boxing Club social medias as well as my own.
Okay.
um and so they picked that up and then showed interest, and it was a surreal experience. Um, the campaign was 10 days long. It was in connection with the One Show. So we got to work with One Show presenters, Alex Jones, Ronan Keating, Jermaine Genius. Like, the experiences were surreal, but the biggest thing for me was we traveled for 10 days around the UK, three different destinations, and three different charities that needed our help. And the biggest thing for me was I got to be on the giving end of the help rather than the receiving, because I've been on the receiving end my entire life, and
Yeah.
every single one of our team members has either had a health issue or some really unfortunate event that has happened to them in their life that makes them need help. And it was just so uplifting. Um, we're still in contact to this day. As I said, I'm still an ambassador for Children in Need. So yeah, it was surreal, and it was eye-opening, and I think that really gave me more drive, and just to see what helping people can do, like the faces and the happy tears and the many hugs we shared were so worth it. But I think that only deepened my passion for, right, what can I do? Because I've always been to our family mentality is deal with the cards that you've been dealt, but if you can strive and never settle.
Yes.
So that really deepened my passion even more so, and I'm so grateful for that experience, because not only did I gain great relationships and did it help with my confidence and my public speaking skills, and but I got to help other people and have 5 other amazing friends, and I think the campaign altogether is 1.5 million for charities, including Monkstown Boxing Club, because we benefit from their funding as well.
Mhm.
So it was just surreal, because it really felt like you were making a difference. So as I said, like that just drove me on even more.
Jodie, you are making a huge difference. A huge difference. I think our audience and listeners will agree that you're an absolute superstar. And, yes, it has pushed you on in your passion, but I think, you have explained that you have had some mental health difficulties, but you don't sit down under that for any longer than necessary, and it's okay to not be okay. But that's what's pushed you on. You're talking about your family, the attitude of this is the hand of cards we've been dealt with, so we just get on with it. But it's actually choosing not to let our health and our circumstances define us, but use them for a greater good. And you have, repeatedly, and you're only 20, that's what you do. You use it for a greater cause. I get emotional just listening to you share those stories. And I know I have promised you that I will come over and I'm going to do a day in the life of Jodie and get it shared to social media. I'm really, really excited about that because you're just a fabulous ambassador for what you do for children and young people and those kids with disabilities and things going on. So, at this point in our podcast, I just want to say that Jodie's social media handles will be shared below here in the program notes. And you've heard her refer to Monkstown Boxing Club. We're not advertising that, we're not sponsoring them or anything here. But if you want to go and follow them on social media so you can keep an eye and see what Jodie gets up to, certainly do that. Follow her on social media if you know a child or young person with disability, special needs of some sort. Get onto Jodie's social media, follow her. Her content is absolutely amazing. It's very encouraging, it's upbeat. She shares her journey. She's very honest and authentic. And I know that that person will definitely benefit from listening and tuning into her social media. So go ahead and do that. And so, Jodie, life had been great and it is great, and you continue to do all that charity work. But at the beginning of this year, your health took another turn, in where your ACE procedure started to fail. So the bladder is working fine. You've gone for 6 years with this ACE procedure, and now all of a sudden some problems started to arise. Let's talk about what has happened then at the start of this year up to where we currently are.
So at the start of this year, I was going into uni, everything was fine, but I was starting to feel quite ill. And it's very normal for me to be. I suffer with chronic illness and chronic pain, but if you yourself know what chronic illness and chronic pain is like, you know your baseline and you know what's not normal.
Mhm.
And for me, I was feeling not normal, and as I touched on at the very beginning, my washouts when I initially got the procedure done were taking maybe 45 minutes.
Mhm.
Right up until after I did my last washout, I think take anywhere up to 2 hours.
Mhm.
Um, just trying to empty my bowel. Sometimes that wasn't even happening, and the water was just draining out. And um, the biggest thing for me was sickness, because I don't have any muscle tone in my body, mainly in my trunk. more so in my arms and legs. So it was quite weakening because my blood sugar and my blood pressure would drop because that was just a shock to the body.
Yes.
It just made me. I say to mum, like, I just can't wait for my stoma bag and a Barbie butt, and because I despise that bathroom, I hate spending time in it.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, um, so I started to feel really ill, and I actually come home from uni one day, and I went home early because I did a presentation. Got marked on my presentation, was like, I'm not well. My tutors could see that I wasn't well. My
Mhm.
tutor actually asked me what I was doing in, and I was like, I have a job to do. I'm not letting my
Mm.
other classmates down. But as soon as I finished, I went straight home. And then our district nurse came out. I was shaking in bed in pain in my abdomen. And then obviously, because my bowel was not great. My bladder wasn't great because, again, when one doesn't behave, nor does the other. So
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. But my ace tube itself was actually starting to push itself out. Now, as I described my SPC, it's the same sort of device. So they're exactly the same. You put it in, you inflate a little balloon full of water, and it holds it in place.
Mhm.
But I was actually having what I described. Now, I've never had kids. I'm only 20 years of age, but like my mom had witnessed it, and they were like full blown contractions to the point where my ace tube would push itself out. So we actually, that day, then that had happened maybe 3 or 4 times in the last 2 weeks leading up to this. But on that day, the district nurse came out, and I wasn't well. I was feeling so ill. I probably the sickest I'd been in a while. And not saying a lot because I've had a lot of big surgeries and dealt with loads of sickness. But she was like, get the A&E immediately. So my mum took me to A&E, and they originally thought I had a bowel obstruction.
Mhm.
Um, which was semi correct because those washouts were becoming less effective, so I was
Yes.
constipated.
Mhm.
Um, and it was only getting to a certain point in my bowel and possibly missing out like the top half.
Yeah.
So I was very bunged up towards the top half of my bowel.
Mhm.
Um, so they were doing what we would usually do. Loads of, yeah, loads of laxatives, loads of medication, loads of trying to just empty me. Um, that worked, but because of what we later found out was when we were flushing the water in my bowel to do a washout, a lot of it was coming back out.
Mhm.
My actual abdomen through the hole through the tract. Um, and we had found out then, and this was happening while I was in hospital, but only now am I able to connect the dots after having this examination
Yes.
done. I was then moved to I got home from hospital after 3 days because my mum was like, we have all these laxatives at home,
Mhm.
we have everything that you're giving us, and I have a specialized mattress. I have an air mattress, and I was sleeping on a normal mattress in the hospital, and it just wasn't agreeing with my body. So circumstances weren't great. So we were like, we're just gonna take her to our house and deal with it the best way we can.
Mhm.
But then, as I said, water was also leaking out of my stomach, and feces was leaking out as well. And that was causing major like overgranulation of my stomach,
Mhm.
and no one, no one up until when I next went into surgery for a bladder issue, actually, no one had given us any sort of guidance. So, um, mm, we didn't know what to do. So the best thing we could think of was damage control and mess control because it was literally just flying out of me. Um, puppy pads
Yeah.
on my stomach, between my clothes, under myself, under the bed, like everywhere possible, just to stop,
Yeah.
because it's a messy job. but then in turn it was burning my stomach and causing overgranulation and major burns. So I went in then the following week because I actually had a surgery scheduled to get a bladder stone removed, because that, for me, that's very common with having an SVC, to have bladder stones. So I had surgery for um to get a bladder stone removed, but at this stage, I had only been moved to adult services for about a year. I'm very complex to try to understand, and as I touched on in the beginning, like not many doctors knew what a suprapubic or an ACE was. More so, the suprapubic there was more awareness of, but an ACE was very few and far between. So I was doing a lot of myself advocating, and my urologist was like, she's wonderful. I can't sing her praises enough, but she was overseeing both of them until everything kind of went a bit sideways. And because that's not her specialty, and I need someone from colorectal team um to oversee that now. But whenever I went in for my bladder stone removal, I asked her to examine it because I was like, there's something wrong. And we can't put our finger on it because we tried bigger sizes of tubes, we tried flushing different amounts of fluids in me, we tried everything, but nothing was working, and we were still getting the same result. And so, not to be too graphic, but I feel like this is the best way I can describe it for the listeners. My tract was only initially, when I got the surgery, the only thing that you could fit in there was a certain size of catheter. So I had a size 16 catheter in, and you could fit that in and no more. And just about fill up the wound to what you needed to keep me comfortable. But she examined it while I was under general anesthetic, and she could put her entire finger down the tract alongside the tube, so it had stretched and wide. And then that was leaving any sort of thing that we were flushing in to push back out, push the tube itself out, and all the feces and everything that's obviously inside your bowel was just coming out of me uncontrollably. And it was only then I came out of surgery that my urology surgeon, and this was what blows my mind because it's not her specialty, but it was her idea. I woke up from general anesthetic and she came around. She was like, everything went well. We removed your bladder stone, but I've put a stoma bag over your stomach. And I was like, okay, all right. Like, what does that mean? Um, so now I have a stoma bag. And initially, we had my ACE tube inside the stoma bag, still inserted into my stomach, because we were still trying to use it, um, and get as much function out of it as possible. But it was just making me sick, and I just put my foot down. I was like, no, I've had enough. I was like, I'm not, I can't do this. So my nurse then took the tube out, so now I'm just left with a hole on my abdomen with feces leaking out and a stoma bag over the top.
It still blows me away when I hear you tell this story. Um, it's just disgusting. I think that you've been left. And how many weeks is this now? You've been out of hospital, Jodie? Probably 12
Um,
weeks.
more so months. So
Mhm.
going on 3 months now that I've been in bed.
Yeah. So you've gone from at 14 years of age having your suprapubic catheter, having your ACE procedure done, getting your life back, having quality of life, and then boom, all of a sudden, the ACE, your opening starts to stretch, starts to leak, and because it's not into the lower end of the bowel, where the stool is more formed and it's higher up, it means then your output is liquid output. So it's liquid
Mm.
feces that's coming out onto your abdomen that burns. That does the skin a lot of damage, which is why now they've put a bag on to capture it, to kind of lessen the skin issues. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you really shouldn't be at home with this opening on your stomach, with no way of dealing with it, with no way of flushing your bowel out properly. Um, are you able to eat? Can you eat? Like, do you constantly feel full? You're catching this stool in the stoma bag, but it's not being done effectively. It's not being taken out of the intestine properly. A proper stoma hasn't been formed yet. You have been told that you will need a stoma. Um, I believe the ACE procedure is more done in Northern Ireland for children. It's not a thing available to adults. They would just create an ileostomy stoma, and you are waiting for that. But they have said that this is not an urgent priority. I beg to differ, and I think our audience will beg to differ that this is a very urgent matter, especially because you've now been in bed for 3 months. You can't be up and about doing the things that you want to do because you are just leaking stool out of your body, and the pressure of being up and being about and doing all those things that you normally would do are going to add to that. So, what does your diet look like right now? How are you managing? From a
But
nutrition point of view as well, how are you doing?
my diet has always kind of remained the same because although my problems might have been quote unquote solved by surgery I had when I was 14, it doesn't take away from the damage that was already done.
Mhm,
So my mum refers to I eat like a baby bird, maybe 1 or 2 meals a day, and I mightn't even finish them. Maybe a cup of tea in the morning or a coffee or something to get me going. And one full meal maybe you're looking at, or just one full meal and maybe a cup of tea or some pancakes or something in the evening, and that's on a good day.
mhm. Yeah. So you're not getting the nutrition that you necessarily need, and being left like this right now isn't going to help things. Um,
No.
so I would ask our audience at this stage, listening to Jodie's story, Jodie needs urgent help. And if you're someone who's been following my social media for a while, you will have seen I've shared posts and things out there to get the awareness spread, that we could maybe get her some help in pushing this surgery forward and helping them realize that this is an urgent matter, that she can't be left like this. She is a children's ambassador that's holding her back from her everyday life. It's holding her back from the passions that she wants. And you've heard her say she's had to put uni on hold temporarily because of this current situation. So please, I would ask you to share to your social media Jodie's story whenever you see it mentioned on my socials or Jodie's. Go ahead, share the story, share the post, tag her in it, and let's get the word spread out there to get her much more help, and see if we can get this further along ASAP, because she can't be waiting another 3 months to just continue to be left how she is. Jodie, tell us a little bit. You get some help and care at home. You're living at home with your mum, who's looked after you your entire life and been your biggest advocate. Um, but you do have to have some care at home. You have a hospital bed at home. You have the proper mattress. Tell us a little bit about your care at home that you need, and that's become more recently because of your current situation.
Yeah, before I move on to your question at hand, one of the things I did want to mention was not to discredit any of your past guests or the people that may follow you, but because I don't have Crohn's or
Mhm,
colitis, it's not seen as an urgent issue, and cerebral palsy seems to overshadow everything.
mhm,
And that's my biggest frustration because I just wish doctors would, and I totally understand emergency surgeries and cancer
mhm.
patients. I would never begrudge anybody
Yeah.
for their situation. As I say, everyone's situation is quite unique. But I just wish doctors would prioritize quality of life. And
Mhm,
looking back, and I hate thinking this way, but obviously with me being very open about my mental health and suffering from depression, these thoughts do creep in.
mhm,
I I kind of begrudged myself at 14, even though I didn't know any better. I begrudged myself at 14. What was I doing signing those consent forms if I knew I was going to be back at the age of 20, 21, going through the same thing? So I just wish doctors would look and actually see quality of life, because fair enough, if I respect the profession, and and as you said, this is going to link into needing more care at home, but my mum's a single parent. I have care companies coming in morning and night to put me to bed and shower me 3 nights a week and put me to bed and get me up in the morning, get me dressed. My
Mhm.
mum was doing that herself for years, and she now suffers from chronic pain herself and fibromyalgia. I have an air mattress at home, um, because I can't sleep on a normal bed due to my severity of my cerebral palsy, and there's only so many positions I can lie in that are
Yeah.
comfortable due to my muscle tightness and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but I guarantee if those surgeons took a step out of their surgeon role and
Mhm.
took a step into the career role, the situation, I genuinely believe that the situation would be resolved
Yeah.
way sooner than way
I agree.
sooner than stereotypical, because it's not easy to live with, and this is having an ongoing effect. My disability has always, I always say, it always affects the entire family.
Mhm.
Um, but more so now, like mum's having to do stomach care, mum's having to like put more time into, and I already need 24-hour care, so
Mhm.
like I don't know where she's getting the time from. Like I am one of four siblings. I have three brothers. My youngest brother has ASD, so he has needs of his own.
Yeah.
That's a lot to handle.
Mhm.
I don't know where my mum's finding the time, but I genuinely do believe that doctors need to look above and beyond
Mhm.
your stereotypical bowel diseases, because
Yes.
it's not just that, and I believe that they need to prioritize quality of life, because I'm up in my chair talking to you in the Zoom, but for a week prior to this, when we were talking, I've been in bed,
Mhm.
reserved my energy for this, and I can guarantee you I'll be in bed for another week or possibly two before I can get up and even have a day in the house by myself. Like I'm not even going anywhere.
Yes. Yes. It's totally understandable. Yeah. Yeah, quality of life is the biggest thing, and I know for 4 years that was my fight, which was I have no quality of life, but the surgeons were saying this will impact your quality of life, and we couldn't get across, you know, no, this is going to give me a better quality of life, because life can't get any worse than it currently is. And yes, sometimes a surgeon needs to come and do a day in the life to actually witness what is going on, and appreciate it. And sadly, it impacts our mental health, and we get to a certain stage on that journey, and that's then when they have to take the necessary steps and the necessary actions, you know. But I think from a point of view, we have to keep pursuing this. We have to keep spreading awareness, and we have to keep getting your story out there. That they will eventually realize that your quality of life does matter, and this just doesn't impact you. This impacts your entire family network. As you said, your mum is pulling extra hours in a day from I don't know where, but and she's having to do all of the things that you know she shouldn't have to do. Things should be put in place. Doing research and trying to find other types of stoma bags whenever you haven't got a stoma, that should not be on your mum. Those things need action taken, and the steps to kind of rectify where you're at. So, yeah, again, we'll just push on social media, spread awareness, get it out there, and hopefully you will be going through surgery soon enough to get you on a road to recovery, to get your life back, and get back to pursuing those dreams. Jodie, you've been in bed for a week, and you will probably be absolutely fatigued after this because you've put everything into it this morning. I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on here today, being vulnerable, sharing from the heart, everything that you have. And I've only known you a short time. I'm extremely proud to know you. I'm honoured and privileged to know you. And I'm excited to see where life takes you on the other side of your surgery because that will come to see the work that you do. And yeah, I'll continue to support you. And yeah, it's exciting what lies ahead. And I think, our listeners and viewers today have probably witnessed the same female that I've witnessed, who's very strong, very determined, very upbeat, and has been in the worst of circumstances, but still you have this drive to help others and to give and have the best life you can. So, Jodie, I wish you every what's the word? I've lost the word. Every happiness with your future, and I know you will succeed. So, thank you so much for coming on here today and spending the time with us. It's really appreciated.
Of course, and can I just take a minute just to say, I know we've only known each other a short time, but my mum literally has no support system, no guidance, no nothing, and you have been a shining light in a very dark time for us. So thank you so much for your support and your guidance and getting behind this and helping me try to change my life. It's appreciated more than you'll ever know.
Oh, you are very welcome. And my passion, as you know, Judy, is just to pay it forward. It's to help one person at a time. And yep, it can be very rewarding. But there were people out there who helped me on my journey and continue to. It's just about paying it forward and doing exactly what you do on your own social media. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you have one golden nugget or one little piece of information that you would like to leave today with our audience and viewers, what would it be, Jodie?
Disability is not a blanket term. It doesn't define people, and there's so much below the surface that you're not aware of. So we're not often asking for help, or we're not often shining a light on our disability, but um and I think I've had to listen to my own advice recently. Give them credit because they're going through hell on a daily basis just to get through the day, to maybe see you and do their passion and focus on what they're doing. And yeah, disability isn't a blanket term. There's so much that goes on in the background. So for anybody that's in my position listening, please know that I see you, and I'm going through this myself, and only am I realizing now that I actually have to give myself credit. So that's the and I think that goes for everybody. Just no matter what you're going through, give yourself credit because it's not easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love it. Absolutely love it, Jodie. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to your audience for tuning in and watching today and listening. And again, tune in next week where we will bring you another episode from the Bowel Chronicles. From us today, it's over and out.